Here where I live in Switzerland, it's been a complete return to winter. We had a lot of snow recently, so I was just really in the mood for some comfort food. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a beef stew today, and it's really delicious, a really hearty beef stew, and it's actually quite healthy because there's a lot of vegetables in this beef stew, so it's not just meat, there's tons of veggies. So these are some of the main ingredients you're going to need. So in the back there, of course, you've got the stewing meat. So for the stewing meat, you don't want to get like the best quality of meat. You want to get one that gets tender after a few hours of cooking. And then back here I have some mushrooms that I just diced into quarters. And I've got here some celery chopped up. Here I just had some pumpkin that I had left over. This is optional. I just wanted to use up the rest of the pumpkin that I had. This is a can of unsweetened and unsalted corn that I've drained and rinsed. Some slivered onions, and there's a couple of garlics in here as well. This is about 4 or 5 carrots. Then I've got 1 red bell pepper. Then I've also got a couple of potatoes, which are going to go right into the stew. And then back here I've also got a can of diced and peeled tomatoes. I've got some Worcester sauce for seasoning, and also you're going to need some tomato paste. So those are kind of the main ingredients. I'm going to use a couple more spices and stuff like that as I'm going, which I'll show you. So let's get started. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take some just oil and just use a giant pot for this meal. I always find if you use a bigger pot, it's just much easier to stir and all that. And you want to put that on a high heat because we're going to be browning the meat first. Now I'm going to take my stewing beef and put all of it in there. Make sure that they get a nice brown sort of outer layer on all sides. Okay, so I just took the meat aside, put it on a plate. I'm going to add just a little bit more oil for the rest of the vegetables. And the first thing I'm going to do is put in the onions. I'm going to put the garlic into a garlic press and put the garlic in now that the onions have been in them for a few minutes. Okay, give that a stir. So then I'm going to start adding the vegetables. So the carrots, add the pumpkin, celery, red peppers. So the mushrooms and corn I'm going to wait just because that's a bit like a lighter texture, so I don't want those to get all mushy. So at this point I'm going to start doing some seasoning. Salt and pepper, fresh ground black pepper, tastes so good. And I'm also going to, I want a little bit of kick to this, so I'm going to add a little bit of chili. You can leave that out, of course. That's, you know, if you don't like spicy. I'm going to add, at this point, the meat that I put on the side. I'm going to add that right back into the pot with the juices that came out. So we want to put it back on a high heat. Then I'm going to add some of the tomato paste concentrate. Maybe like 1 large tablespoon. Give that a whisk. I'm also going to add some thyme, some dried thyme. You can use fresh one. It's winter here, so I don't have any herbs in my garden yet. Give that a nice stir. I'm gonna add a little bit of sweet paprika. I'm gonna add a little bit of cumin. It gives it a little bit of an Asian, I guess, oriental flavor, but I'm not adding very much. It just tastes really good with meat. I'm going to add some beef stock, and I'm also going to add some red wine. Wine first. A nice big glug of that. And at this point I'm also going to add in the Worcester sauce. Get a few glugs of that. And now I've got here the beef stock. So I'm just going to add that right in. And lastly, I'm going to add that entire can of the chopped and peeled tomatoes. So it's going to give it a nice like tomatoey zest to it. So now because of the meat that's in here, it's kind of a more tough meat. It needs to cook for a long time for it to be tender. So I put the lid on but left a little bit of a crack on the side so that some of the water can evaporate so that the juices start thickening up a bit. And I'm going to start stewing this and leave it in there for about an hour so far, or an hour and 15 minutes or so, before I add the rest of the ingredients. Okay, so it's been an hour and I just tried one of the little pieces of meat, and I think it's still a bit too early to add the potatoes since they only need about 40 minutes. So I am going to just add now the mushrooms. So those are going to go in now. And I think I'm also going to add the corn at this point with the stuff. And if you notice that there is like almost no liquid left at this point, you want to make sure that you add a little bit more either beef stock or just a little bit of water. Lid back on and just let it cook a little bit more. So now the meat's starting to get tender, and that's at the point where you want to add your potatoes. So I've chopped them into little bite-sized pieces. So I'm going to bring that back up to a boil, and then I'm going to cook it until the potatoes are tender. So obviously that's going to depend on the potatoes you choose and also the size you cut them. So I think these ones are probably going to take at least half an hour to 40 minutes. All the meat is tender and the potatoes are tender. You can just make sure that you've got seasoning how you like it. You can add some more salt or pepper, and then you're ready to serve it up. So doesn't that just look so delicious? Perfect for a colder day. Okay, so let's try this stew. Tastes really good. Beef tastes really tender now. So perfect for like a cooler day. So I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. If you want to get the full recipe, make sure to go onto my blog, mischievous.tv. I'll have all the measurements and stuff like that for you to check out. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would really appreciate a thumbs up. And you can also leave a comment below to let me know what kind of other meals you would like to see me cook on this channel. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.